I'm Dr. Abby Hamilton, and I'm Filipino. Now, back when I was in college, I didn't introduce myself as Filipino. I didn't really bring it up. It wasn't until my senior year when Stetson started the Multicultural Student Union, and they invited me to dance a Filipino folk dance. So on that day, I got dressed into my beautiful costume, and I started walking right across the middle of Stetson's campus, ready to show everyone my Filipino identity. And then this girl, let's call her Jane, stopped me and said, "What the hell are you wearing?" Now, I didn't stop in that second to analyze all the social and psychological aspects of exactly what happened there. But what it was a clash of our cultures. You see, when Jane grew up, she wore dresses like this. And I was completely familiar with dresses like this. When Jane grew up, her parents taught her when we're eating at the dinner table, make sure you use your fork properly. But in my house, it was completely fine to use our hands, because that's a Filipino thing. You see, Jane and I were exposed to different things growing up. And that's why when she saw my dress, she said what she said. But I was crushed. I was so broken. But 25 years later, I completed research on that Filipino-American experience, and I completed my dissertation on it, and now I'm a speaker and an author about cross-cultural issues and diversity. And I love talking to these audiences because I run across people who had the same exact clash of cultures like I did with Jane. All you have to do is ask them. You'll hear their stories. Okay, one of the most common one is when people come up to us and say, "Where are you from?" In my case, I go, "Oh, thanks for asking. I was born in New York." And they go, No. Where are you really from?" Like they're giving me a second chance to answer the question right. Then when I finally tell them what they wanted to hear, which is the fact that my parents immigrated from the Philippines, then they think it's cool to say, "Whoa, yeah, lumpia." That's a Filipino egg roll. But I don't go up to them and say, "Oh my gosh, you're American? Yes, I love corn dogs and tater tots." So is it just a hopeless cause? This is the world we live in. They're always just going to be the Janes of the world. Just get used to it. I think not. So let me explain. Did you know that before 1965, there was a limit on the number of immigrants who could come into the United States for each country each year? Like for Filipinos, it was only 100 Filipinos who could enter the United States. But then the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act lifted the quotas and whoosh, floodgates were opened. Oh my goodness, the diversity. Now let's think about that. 1965, that was only 58 years ago. So the amount of diversity that we're seeing right now, it's really just in its baby stages. But in these little 58 years, we're already seeing mixed race couples on TV, like on the Old Navy commercials and Bridgerton, right? Yeah. So I'm from a mixed race marriage. My husband, Mark, over there. We met here on Stetson's campus 32 years ago. He was my college sweetheart. But when we got married in 1995, there were people not okay with it. And some people would see us as a couple and think, oh, fiancé visa. Or, mail order bride. So, let me just tell you, this is the coolest statistic, okay? According to the Gallup poll, in 1958, the approval rate for interracial marriage was 4%. When Mark and I got married in 1995, it was 50%. But in 2021, the approval rate for interracial marriage was 94%. Oh, that is change. Change is happening all around us. And even right now, in the White House, we have a vice president who is female, Asian American, and African American right now. Now that is progress. Oh my goodness, so much in 58 years. And this is the kind of progress that gives me high hopes for a different future. But you know what? All of us here, we're part of the transformation too. Because if things are changing around us, we need to change too. And if we don't change, we'll be stuck in a world where we're just connecting with a few people around us in our workplace, in our school, in our community. So what do? Let me present a solution. Cultural agility. Agility? What's that? When I think of agility, I think of that movie, The Matrix, where Keanu Reeves is on that rooftop, right? Swirling those arms. He's bending all the way back like no human can actually do. And he's bending and flexing, dodging all those bullets. So cultural agility is how we can bend and flex in the face of cultural differences. So there are 3 parts to it. You start with looking in the mirror and then learning the culture and see the person. So step number 1, look in the mirror. When I was little, the kids in the neighborhood used to come over and they used to ask if I could play. And my mom, who's a doctor, used to say, Abigail, do not play with children wearing no shoes because the bacteria is entering the soles of their feet. And I remember thinking, I don't want to play with bacteria, boy. Ugh. This is how our biases begin, though, right? They start with our family and our friends and our environment. So step number 1 is to look in the mirror. Take some time to assess your personal beliefs and your values and identify whether they truly are accurate. Because you know what? Right now, you're using them to make opinions about everyone around you, including Bacteria Boy. Step number 2, learn the culture. Now, you could sign up for a whole bunch of cross-cultural training programs, and they will tell you that you should be careful not to cross your legs when you're sitting down, because in India, showing the soles of your feet is disrespectful. And also, you should be careful about wearing white, because in China, white is associated with death. Oops. Okay. And let me just tell you another thing. You cannot take these lists of cultural traditions and just apply them across the board. Okay? I'm Filipino, But if I come over to your house for dinner, I'm going to need some silverware. I'm not going to be eating with my hands unless we're having chicken wings for dinner. So make sure that you learn the culture, and make sure you're also not assuming that you can just go to the Wikipedia list of all the cultural norms of Filipinos and expect every Filipino to do it. It's just not that simple. And that's why we need step number 3, which is to see the person. So we're going to do a little bit of that right now, okay? Raise your hand if you like doing arts and crafts. I love my glue gun and my scissors. Yeah, keep your hands raised. Let me see. Everyone look around and see who's raising their hand and then who's not raising their hand. Oh, okay. You guys are my peeps. I see you. Okay, put your hands down. My arts and crafts people, you are just like me. But now I want to see a show of hands of people who like working with Microsoft Excel formulas. There's nothing like, yeah, I see you. There's nothing like the power of an Excel formula, right? You can rule the world with it. Yeah, I see you nodding your head there in the back. Okay, so you see, the people around you are not characterized by the color of the skin or the slant of their eyes in a list from Wikipedia. Each of us is a unique individual with our own traits and qualities. So take some time to see the person, hear what they're saying, feel what they're feeling, and truly understand who they really are. Stephen Covey said, "Seek first to understand, and then be understood." Isn't it what we want? Just to understand each other despite all our cultural differences? And this doesn't just apply to ethnicities. It applies to people of different religions, sexual orientation, education level, or generations. You know, I'm kind of glad that I had that interaction with Jane so many years ago, because it's moments like that that fuel the fire. Can you hear it? The fire. Fuel the fire behind my message that we all need to be ready for this clash of cultures and be able to handle it right. In the next few weeks, you're going to feel unsettled about something that's unfamiliar to you. And in that moment, I ask and invite you to use your cultural agility. Be curious. Appreciate. And that's how we can be part of the change. This is my favorite part of the presentation, because now I know that after you all have now watched me for 12 or so minutes, I've exposed you to a little bit of my culture because you've been watching me wear this dress. Now I know if you ever see this dress again, you're not going to say, "What the hell are you wearing?" Embrace the change that you just experienced, because it's the beginning of your cultural agility. Thank you.